Most people wouldn't even consider it, but for the Seminoles, it was a sanctuary.
A symbol of their resilience.
Exactly.
I can imagine.
And it wasn't without controversy.
The article talks about the modern-day Seminole tribe.
Yes.
So it's like their culture became a way to protect themselves.
Even today. It's all connected.
So where do we go from here? What can we learn from all of this? What does their story tell us about resilience? About facing impossible odds?
Exactly.
It's a reminder that history isn't just something in a textbook. All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling the Seminole Wars.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those conflicts that always get summed up as like the Native Americans who never surrendered.
Right.
But honestly, there's so much more to uncover there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's about resilience, strategy, and holding on to your identity when the pressure is on. So we're going to break it all down today.
Sounds good.
We're using an article from Epic War Historian. It's called Seminole Wars, 1817-1858, Native Americans Who Never Surrendered.
Catchy title.
Right. Get ready for some serious aha moments.
This isn't just a history lesson.
No, not at all.
The Seminole Wars were a huge turning point, and we can see their impact today.
Totally. So let's set the scene.
Okay.
We're talking early 1800s.
Right.
What's the big thing happening in the U.S.?
Oh, westward expansion, of course.
Manifest destiny, right.
Right.
But this land grab wasn't exactly happening on empty land.
Right, you've got the Seminoles.
Who, by the way, weren't even originally from Florida.
That's right, they were a mixed group. Displaced Native Americans, mostly Creeks,
Yeah.
and escaped slaves.
Wow.
And they'd already built a life in Florida.
Way before it was even a U.S. territory.
Exactly, before 1819.
So they had roots, a community, a way of life, all tied to this land. And then comes the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
Oh, yeah.
Feels familiar, right? It's like the government saying, hey, we want this land, so you gotta move.
It's a classic, unfortunately.
Talk about a recipe for conflict.
It was a pivotal moment, and it set the stage for what would become decades of struggle between the Seminoles and the U.S. government.
Exactly. And that's where we see those sparks fly with the First Seminole War.
1817 to 1818.
Tell me this wasn't just some random border skirmish.
Oh, far from random.
Okay, good.
This is where Andrew Jackson steps in.
Yes.
A general at the time, not known for being, shall we say, diplomatic.
Right.
He used the Seminoles as an excuse to march right into Florida.
Wait, which was still under Spanish control at that time?
That's right.
Whoa, hold on. An excuse? What had the Seminoles even done?
Well, from the U.S. government's view, they were a problem.
Okay.
The Seminoles were protecting runaway slaves, which of course made Southern slave owners furious.
Of course.
And on top of that, they were resisting any attempt to take their territory.
So they were seen as a threat.
Jackson saw it that way, yes.
Yeah, that needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Wow, so he used the runaway slave issue and the Seminoles' resistance as a reason to invade another country.
It was a bold move.
Yeah, and an effective one.
Absolutely. His actions in the First Seminole War pushed Spain to give up Florida.
To the U.S. in 1821. Talk about being caught in a geopolitical chess
For sure.
match. But something tells me the Seminoles weren't just going to roll over.
You're right about that. This was just the beginning, right?
Absolutely. The First Seminole War was just a taste of the resistance
Right.
to come. The Seminoles showed they were a force to be reckoned with. Their story wasn't
Okay,
over.
so things heat up even more. We enter
Yes.
the Second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842. Much longer conflict.
And brutal, the article
Definitely
says.
most brutal of the three.
What made this one so
It all
different?
boils down to the Treaty of Payne's Landing.
Oh, okay.
Signed in
1832.
It basically ordered the Seminoles to move to Indian Territory.
You're kidding, right? Uproot their whole lives and move across
That
the
was the
country.
deal.
That's a
It
lot
was a
to ask.
huge issue, and a lot of Seminoles just refused,
I can
especially the ones
imagine.
led by Osceola.
Oh, yeah,
Now there's a
Osceola.
leader.
He's like a
He
legend,
earned that
right?
status. He wasn't just a
Absolutely.
warrior, a
Yeah.
brilliant strategist, a
Okay.
charismatic leader who really embodied the Seminole spirit.
Wow, so he refused to sign
He
the treaty.
did, and his fight against the U.S. Army turned him into a symbol of defiance.
So he wasn't the type to back down from
Not
a
at
fight.
all.
What was his strategy in this war?
This is where it gets interesting. The Seminoles
Okay.
knew they couldn't win a straight-up fight with the U.S. Army.
outnumbered,
Exactly. So they
outgunned.
used the Florida terrain to their advantage. Guerrilla
What do you mean?
tactics.
Oh,
Ambushing
wow.
troops in the swamps and the Everglades.
fighting in the Everglades.
Think about it.
That sounds
It was brutal,
awful.
but it completely threw off the U.S. military.
They were used to more traditional
Exactly.
warfare.
Despite their superior weapons, they were on the defensive.
In an environment they
And
did
fighting
not...
an enemy who knew it perfectly.
So the article said the Second Seminole War was really expensive for
One
the
of the
U.S.
most
government.
expensive Indian wars. Drained resources, manpower. It didn't even work.
They didn't achieve
They
their
never
goal.
fully removed the Seminoles from Florida.
So even with a powerful army, the U.S. couldn't break
That's
their
how
will.
fiercely these people fought for their homeland.
That's incredible. But wait, there's
Oh, yeah.
more, right? There's a third war on the
Coming right up.
horizon. Oh man, the Seminole story is
It
incredible.
is. Just wait until you hear what happens next.
I can't wait, but we'll have to save that for part
Definitely.
2. Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time. You'd think after 2 wars things would calm down, but that wasn't the case for the Seminoles.
No kidding. Their story is one of, incredible
It
perseverance.
really is. Even after years of fighting and relocation efforts, the desire for freedom, it never died out. And that brings us to the Third Seminole War.
1855 to 1858.
Yep, a smaller conflict, but still significant.
So even after all that, some Seminoles were still holding out in Florida.
Oh yeah, they had retreated deep into the Everglades.
Wow, that's serious dedication to their homeland.
It shows how deeply connected they were to that land, They refused to be driven away.
The Everglades. That's a tough place to live.
Most people wouldn't even consider it, but for the Seminoles, it was a sanctuary.
A symbol of their resilience.
Exactly.
And this is where Chief Billy Bowlegs comes in,
Yes, he was a leader during this time.
right? The article mentioned him.
Yeah. Chief Billy Bowlegs was a fascinating figure.
Oh.
Skilled warrior, for sure, but
Hmm.
also a very pragmatic leader. He understood the reality of the situation.
Yeah, they couldn't keep fighting forever.
Right, he saw the toll it was taking, the losses they suffered,
So he was trying to find a way to protect his people.
but also had to be realistic about their chances.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Exactly. He was committed to defending their way of life, but also knew that continuing the fight could, wipe them out.
It was a tough choice.
Heartbreaking, actually, but he felt negotiation was the only way to secure some kind of future.
For the Seminoles. So how did that go? Was he able to make a deal with the U.S. government?
He was, but it wasn't easy,
I can imagine.
and it wasn't without controversy.
Okay.
He eventually agreed to relocate in
Okay.
exchange for compensation and safe passage for his people.
So they would be leaving Florida.
Yeah, and some Seminoles saw it as a betrayal.
After all they had been through? Yeah, I can see that.
It really divided the community.
Wow.
Some just didn't trust the U.S. government.
After all the broken promises.
Exactly. They saw relocation as surrender,
Giving up their identity.
their ties to the land,
So even after 3
and
wars,
so much pressure.
some Seminoles just refused to leave,
That's right. They went deeper into the Everglades.
choosing hardship over surrender.
They adapted to that environment, relied on their knowledge of the land to survive.
Incredible.
And you know what? Their
What?
descendants still live in Florida today.
That's amazing after everything they
A
endured.
testament to their spirit, their refusal to be erased.
It's like their very existence is a form of resistance.
You got it. The Seminole Wars might have officially ended,
Yeah.
but their fight, that fight for self-determination and cultural preservation, it continues
They're a living embodiment of
to
resistance.
the strength of their ancestors.
Wow. Okay. And that brings us to their legacy.
Right.
The article talks about the modern-day Seminole tribe,
Yes.
especially their success with casinos.
They've turned adversity into empowerment.
It's remarkable, their adaptability, their
Yeah.
business skills.
It is, but it's important to remember what fueled that.
Their connection to their culture.
Exactly, their traditions, their knowledge.
That's what sustained
It
them.
wasn't just about the past, it was the foundation of their identity.
So it's like their culture became a way to protect themselves,
A shield against assimilation.
to hold on to what makes them unique,
They fought for their land, but also the right to be
to
Seminole.
exist on their own terms. My mind is blown, honestly.
I know, it's a powerful
We've gone
story.
from battles and treaties
Mm-hmm.
to this deep conversation about survival.
It makes you think, doesn't
It
it?
does. The Seminole story isn't just about the past,
It's a reflection of struggles that are still happening,
all over the world.
even today. Yeah, it reminds us that history, well, it's not just dates and
Right.
battles, it's alive, woven together with resilience, resistance, and that constant search for identity.
I like that.
The Seminole story, well, it really embodies that.
I'm still thinking about everything they went through. Forced removals, broken treaties, and just their absolute determination. Makes you question that whole narrative we're taught.
The inevitable progress idea.
Like it justifies pushing entire cultures aside.
It's a big question the Seminole Wars force us to face.
Absolutely. We can't understand where we are now.
Without looking at the past, the good and the bad.
The injustices, the consequences.
It's all connected.
So where do we go from here? What can we learn from all of this?
I think the Seminole story, it's a beacon.
Okay.
It shows the strength of the human spirit, the power of holding on to who you are, and that drive for self-determination. It's a story that goes beyond time and place.
It does. It speaks to struggles for justice and equality everywhere.
It really does.
I keep thinking about those who fought so hard for their homeland, for the right to just exist the way they wanted to. What does their story tell us about resilience, about facing impossible odds?
Their resilience, it wasn't just about survival.
No.
It was about keeping their culture alive, passing down those traditions.
The language, the connection to the land.
That's what got them through the tough
They
times.
teach us that real resilience, it comes from identity.
From believing in yourself and your right to exist.
It's like a guidebook for resisting assimilation.
For dealing with pressure from a dominant culture.
While still holding on to what makes you unique, what defines you as a people.
And that message, well, it reaches far beyond the Everglades.
Oh, yeah.
Think about indigenous communities around the world.
Still facing similar challenges.
Fighting for their land, their languages.
Their right to exist.
The Seminoles, they show us what it means to resist, to adapt, to never give up.
Even when it seems like you're fighting a losing battle.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that history isn't just something in a textbook.
It's alive. It shapes us.
It influences our future.
It
This
does.
has been an incredible journey. From Florida to the Everglades, and then to like a deeper understanding of ourselves.
And the world around us.
Wow.
It shows the power of storytelling, of finding those hidden parts of history.
The parts that make us think differently.
The parts that help us connect with each
The
other.
Seminole story needs to be told.
It needs to be remembered, honored.
For its message of resilience and resistance.
The strength of a people fighting for their own destiny.
I can't thank you enough for taking us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been eye-opening. Seriously, this will stick with me.
I'm glad to hear that. And to our listeners, remember, never stop learning.
Keep asking questions. Keep exploring.
Keep diving deep into the stories that make our world what it is.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Bye, everyone.